Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to my channel. It's a pleasure to have you join us as we uncover the secrets of subject-object-verb word order. In linguistic typology, a subject-object-verb SOV language is one in which the subject, object, and verb of a sentence always or usually appear in that order. If English were SOV, Sam apples ate would be an ordinary sentence, as opposed to the actual standard English Sam ate apples, which is subject-verb-object SVO. The term is often loosely used for ergative languages like Adyghe and Basque that in fact have agents instead of subjects. Moving on to the next segment, we have incidents. Among natural languages with a word order preference, SOV is the most common type, followed by subject-verb-object. The two types account for more than 87% of natural languages with a preferred order. Languages that have SOV structure include most Indo-Iranian languages, Assams, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindustani, Kurdish, Marathi, Nepali, Odia, Pashto, Persian, Punjabi, Sindhi, Sinhala, Zaza, Ainu, Akkadian, Armenian, Assyrian, Amar, Basque, Burashasky, Cherokee. Cushitic languages are Far, Beja, Island, Oromo, Saho, Sidoma, Somali, Dakota. Dravidian languages Brahui, Jawa, Gondi, Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu. Dogon languages Elamite. Ethio-Semitic languages Amharic, Tigrinya. Gothic, Ancient Greek, Hejong, Hittite, Hopi. Ajoid languages Itelmen. Yoponic languages Japanese, Hachijo, Ryukyuan, Korean. Classical Latin Lakota. Mand languages Mighty Mongolian, Navajo, Nivknobian, Omaha-Ponk. Omotic languages Quichua. Samoyedic languages Senufo languages Seri, Sicilian, Sunwa, Sumerian. Nearly all Taito-Burman languages, including Lhasa, Tibetan and Burmese. Tungusic languages Evenki, Manchu. Turkic languages almost all Buto-Asucan languages Yukosama. Virtually all Caucasian languages. Standard Chinese is generally SVO, but common constructions with verbal complements require SOV or OSV. Some Romance languages are SVO, but when the object is an enclitic pronoun, word order allows for SOV. See the examples below. German and Dutch are considered SVO in conventional typology and SOV in generative grammar. They can be considered SOV but with word order as an overriding rule for the finite verb in main clauses, which results in SVO in some cases and VSO in others. For example, in German, a basic sentence such as "I say something about Karl" is in SVO word order. Non-finite verbs are placed at the end. However, since V only applies to the finite verb, "I want to say something about Karl." In a subordinate clause, the finite verb is not affected by V and also appears at the end of the sentence, resulting in full SOV order, word for word. Now say, "I heard that Karl a belt bought has." A rare example of SOV word order in English is "I subject the object word verb in the wedding vow with this ring, id wed." Now, we shift our focus to properties, a topic that deserves our attention. SOV languages have a strong tendency to use postpositions rather than prepositions, to place auxiliary verbs after the action verb, to place genitive noun phrases before the possessed noun, to place a name before a title or honorific James, Uncle and Johnson Doctor rather than Uncle James and Dr. Johnson, and to have subordinates appear at the end of subordinate clauses. They have a weaker but significant tendency to place demonstrative adjectives before the nouns they modify. Relative clauses preceding the nouns to which they refer usually signals SOV word order, but the reverse does not hold. SOV languages feature prenominal and postnominal relative clauses roughly equally. SOV languages also seem to exhibit a tendency towards using a time and a place ordering of appositional phrases. In linguistic typology, one can usefully distinguish two types of SOV languages in terms of their type of marking. 1. Dependent marking has case markers to distinguish the subject and the object, which allows it to use the variant OSV word order without ambiguity. This type usually places adjectives and numerals before the nouns they modify, and is exclusively suffixing without prefixes. SOV languages of this first type include Japanese and Tamil. 2. Head marking distinguishes subject and object by affixes on the verb rather than markers on the nouns. It also differs from the dependent marking SOV language in using prefixes as well as suffixes, usually for tense and possession. Adjectives in this type are much more verb-like than independent marking SOV languages, and hence they usually follow the nouns. In most SOV languages with a significant level of head marking or verb-like adjectives, numerals and related quantifiers like all, every also follow the nouns they modify. Languages of this type include Navajo and Seri. In practice, of course, the distinction between these two types is far from sharp. Many SOV languages are substantially double marking and tend to exhibit properties intermediate between the two idlest types above. Many languages that have shifted to SVO word order from earlier SOV retain at least to an extent the properties, for example, the Finnish language high usage of postpositions, etc. Get ready to uncover the mysteries surrounding Afroasiatic languages as we navigate its intriguing terrain. SOV word order is generally found in the Afroasiatic branches of the Ethiopian language Ergative, Omotic, and contemporary Ethio-Semitic. In this section, we'll be deep diving into Somali, unraveling its complexities and uncovering valuable insights. Somali generally uses the subject-object-verb structure when speaking formally. Get ready for an enlightening exploration as we dig into Ainu and understand its role in the broader context. The following example is from Hokkaido Ainu. Let's now turn our attention to Basque and examine its role within the larger context. Ask in short sentences, usually subject or agent object verb. In long sentences, usually subject or agent verb objects. Anyway, both in spoken and written Basque, the pure SOV sentence ineritsek inok erikari noyazun libera esk to do is perfectly valid, just as the OVS order inok erikari noyazun libera esk to do ineritsek. In questions, fronting the verb in a VSO sentence is also correct esk to aldu ineritsek inok erikari noyazun libera. Together with the usual SOV order ineritsek inok erikari noyazun libera esk to aldu. Or the SBO1 ineritsek esk to aldu inok erikari noyazun libera. Let's now turn our attention to Dravidian languages and examine its role within the larger context. The Dravidian languages commonly exhibit or prefer SOV order. The spotlight now falls on Malayalam as we delve deeper into its details. Pustakam plus E equal Pustakit. Get ready to uncover the mysteries surrounding Tamil as we navigate its intriguing terrain. Tamil being a strongly head-final language, the basic word order is SOV. However, since it is highly inflected, word order is flexible and is used for pragmatic purposes. That is, fronting a word in a sentence adds emphasis on it. For instance, a VSO order would indicate greater emphasis on the verb, the action, than on the subject or the object. However, such word orders are highly marked, and the basic order remains SOV. As we enter this new phase, let's analyze Georgian from different angles and evaluate its significance. The Georgian language is not extremely rigid with regards to word order, but is typically either SOV or SVO. As we move forward, let's uncover the untold stories and fascinating intricacies of Indo-European languages. SOV word order is quite common among Indo-European languages, leading to a common hypothesis that this reflects the original preferred word order of the ancestral Proto-Indo-European language. However, the question remains unsettled. In the upcoming section, we'll be shining a light on Albanian. Albanian has free word order, but generally prefers SVO. SOV occurs only in poetic language. As we enter this new phase, let's analyze Armenian from different angles and evaluate its significance. Armenian generally prefers SOV. As we progress through this video, let's now turn our gaze towards Germanic languages. Linguistic consensus holds that the Proto-Germanic language had free word order but preferred SOV. While some Germanic languages, including English and most North Germanic languages, have transitioned to SVO, SOV remains a feature of some major modern Germanic languages, including German and Dutch. However, these modern SOV Germanic languages also exhibit word order, which supersedes the default SOV such that many sentences are rendered subject-verb-object. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of Dutch in this section. Dutch is SOV combined with word order. The non-finite verb infinitive or participle remains in final position, but the finite, i.e. inflected verb is moved to the second position. Simple verbs look like SVO, non-finite verbs participles, infinitives and compound verbs follow this pattern. Pure SOV order is found in subordinate clauses. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through German and its far-reaching implications. German is SOV combined with word order. The non-finite verb infinitive or participle remains in final position, but the finite, i.e. inflected verb is moved to the second position. Simple verbs look like SVO, compound verbs follow this pattern. The word order changes also depending on whether the phrase is a main clause or a dependent clause. In dependent clauses, the word order is always entirely SOV. Also inversion. Get ready for an exciting exploration as we unravel the mysteries of Gothic. The Gothic language, an extinct East Germanic language, had free word order, but SOV constructions were common. Let's transition to Greek Classical and uncover its significance. Greek Classical. Ancient Greek had free word order but generally preferred SOV sentences. This is distinct from modern Greek, where SVO is preferred. In the upcoming portion, we'll be dissecting Indo-Aryan languages to gain a comprehensive understanding of its implications. Vedic Sanskrit, the oldest known of the Indo-Aryan languages, was an inflected language and very flexible in word order, allowing all possible word combinations. Its descendant, Classical Sanskrit, shared this feature but generally preferred SOV sentences. Most later Indo-Aryan languages continue to prefer SOV word order, for example. Bengali. Hejong. Re is a particle that indicates the accusative case and C indicates past tense declarative. Here, E is pronounced as the I in girl and E is pronounced as the I in say. Hindi. Marathi. Nepali. Odia. Urdu. This preference is not fixed in all Indo-Aryan languages. Punjabi, for instance, may be characterized as following a subject-object-verb typology overall, but some flexibility is permitted, and this tendency does not follow in sentences involving personal pronouns. Examples are shown here in both Shomukhi top, right to left, and Gurmukhi bottom, left to right. The word forms used reflect those typical of spoken language. For Shomukhi, vocalist forms with vowel diacritics have been used to explicitly indicate the forms used. In typical writing, these are omitted in most words where regular patterns allow this information to be inferred contextually. The following sentence exhibits the typical SOV word order tendency. The verb phrase is in retrospective perfect participle form, indicating completion of the action, and takes on the feminine plural suffixes in agreement with the gender and number of the object. The subject here is a masculine plural form. In this context, it does not require agreement from the verb. By contrast, in the following sentence, the person involved, referred to by a first-person pronoun, is the object rather than the subject. The significance of people as a semantic category takes precedent over the SOV word order tendency, and the person is typically first even in sentences where that person is the object. The pronoun main has the postposition agglutinate to it, approximately meaning to. Abstract concepts like desires and emotions typically come to people as agentive subjects. The copula in Punjabi is extraverbal in function. While it can constitute the predicate of a sentence on its own, it does not enter the verb phrase when used alongside a full lexical verb. Instead, it acts as a marker of existence remote to or near to the situation. Some Western dialects such as Pavahari have forms of the copula to indicate occurrence of a situation in the future. However, some Indo-Aryan languages exhibit word order in combination with SOV, most prominently Kashmiri. The non-finite verb infinitive or participle remains in final position, but the finite, i.e. inflected part of the verb appears in second position. Simple verbs look like SVO, whereas auxiliated verbs are discontinuous and adhere to this pattern. Given that Kashmiri is of language, if the word apple comes first, then the subject kua girl must follow the auxiliary ki is skikua kiavan. Also, the word order changes depending on whether the phrase is in a main clause or in certain kinds of dependent clause. For instance, in relative clauses, the word order is sova. Main clause plus subordinate clause transcription plus parts main clause translation. I brought the girl who is eating apples. Prepare yourself for an eye-opening discussion on Iranian languages in the upcoming portion of this video. The Iranian languages almost uniformly exhibit SOV word order. Kurdish Kermanji, Kurdish Sorani, Ossetian, Pasho, Persian, Talish. The Xhosa language usually uses a subject-object-verb structure, but it sometimes uses subject-verb-object too. As we transition, let's shed light on Latin and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Classical Latin was an inflected language and had a very flexible word order and sentence structure, but the most usual word order in formal prose was SOV. Again, there are multiple valid translations such as a slave that do not affect the overall analysis. As we embark on the next leg of our journey, let's unpack the layers of Romance languages and examine its core elements. Although their common ancestor Latin had free word order and preferred SOV, the modern Romance languages lost the Latin declension that enabled free word order and in general require subject-verb-object structures. However, remnants of SOV remain, particularly the clitic object pronouns common in Romance grammar. For instance, in French and Portuguese, and in Spanish. Contrast this with the SVO structure of a sentence with an explicit object again in Spanish. The SOV tendency can also be seen when using auxiliary verbs, e.g. in Italian. SOV also appears in Portuguese using a temporal adverb, optionally with the negative, and in a suffix construction for the future and conditional tenses. SVO form or. Get ready for an exciting exploration as we unravel the mysteries of Japanese. The basic principle in Japanese word order is that modifiers come before what they modify. For example, in the sentence Konayume omita, the direct object this sort of dream modifies the verb saw, or in this case had. Beyond this, the order of the elements in a sentence is relatively free. However, because the topic subject is typically found in sentence initial position and the verb is typically in sentence final position, Japanese is considered an SOV language. A closely related quality of the language is that it is broadly head final. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore Korean through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Ga is a particle that indicates the subject. Rule is a particle that indicates the object. Na is changed to na before ga, and the verb stemiol is changed to yeo before na. Without further ado, let's move on to the topic of Quechua. Quechuan languages have standard SOV word order. The following example is from Bolivian Quechua. Let's now zoom in on Sino-Tibetan languages and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. SOV is believed to have been the default order of the proto-language of the Sino-Tibetan family. Most Sino-Tibetan languages exhibit SOV order. However, the largest sub-branch of the family, the Sinitic or Chinese languages, are uniformly SVO, with some SOV-derived features. As we enter this new phase, let's analyze Burmese from different angles and evaluate its significance. Burmese is an analytic language. In this section, we'll be exploring Chinese. Generally, Chinese varieties all feature SVO word order. However, especially in Standard Mandarin, SOV is tolerated as well. There is even a special particle used to form an SOV sentence. The following example that uses is controversially labeled as SOV. May be interpreted as a verb, meaning to hold. However, It does not mean to hold something literally or physically. Rather, the object is held figuratively, and then another verb is acted on the object. SOV structure is widely used in railway contact in order to clarify the objective of the order. Welcome to the next segment, where we explore Tungusic languages and its significance in our journey. The Tungusic languages exhibit SOV word order by default. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the fascinating world of Turkic languages. The Turkic languages all exhibit flexibility in word order, so any order is possible. However, the SOV order is the default one that does not connote particular emphasis on any part of the sentence. Alternate orders are possible, but are used for emphasis. For instance, in Turkish, the following is the default way of saying Murat ate the apple. However, this sentence could also be constructed as OSV elme Murat yedi, OVS elme yedi Murat, VSO yedi Murat elme, VOS yedi elme Murat, or SVO Murat yedi elme, to indicate the relative importance of the subject, object, or the verb. Similarly, in Uzbek this SOV sentence is neutral. The marker go is a dative case marker for the object that precedes it. But the sentence can be changed into OSV as well Ksiviga and Viketi to change the emphasis it was and the who went to Kiva. The same holds in Kazakh, where the below is neutral. But in OSV sentence, it was Dastan who read the book can be used to change the emphasis. Other examples of SOV sentences in Turkic. Azerbaijani. Kiyajais. In the following section, we'll be immersing ourselves in the captivating world of Arabic languages. The idealized profile of the Arabic languages has subject-verb-object-word order. However, some Arabic languages, including the most widely spoken Hungarian, prefer SOV. The proto-language of the Arabic language family is understood to have exhibited SOV order. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore Hungarian through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Hungarian word order is free, although the meaning slightly changes. Almost all permutations of the following sample are valid, but with stress on different parts of the meaning. If you have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comment section.